The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Taste Minstrel Games, Arcane Wonders, Game Toppers, Sean's perpetually frustrating law firm, and listeners like you.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy in the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the Gateway City, St. Louis, Missouri, it's The Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board card and occasionally role-playing games. Today, Alex recaps a trip out to the Gamers Ranch near St. Louis. Then, Alex and Sean will celebrate Feld-Mas by reviewing Carpe Diem. And finally, they'll keep the Feld-Mas spirit going by looking back at their review of Castles of Burgundy, the dice game, in their Duke's Double Take. And now, The Dukes of Dice.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And Alex.
And a very merry Feld-Mas to you, Alex. This is episode 191, Feld-Mas 2018, which we're also calling Seizings Greetings. Not to be confused with Seasons Greetings, but we're seizing stuff. We're seizing the day, Alex.
I'm seizing the day, Sean. I woke up this morning and I said, boy, this is a day I'm just going to grab and I'm going to seize it, and then I'm going to make the most out of it. And then I did.
Yeah. So thanks again to Nick Hayes for naming this episode Seizings. It's hard to say. It's hard to say it in the right context. Seizings. Wow. Seizings Greetings. I got this, Alex.
You're a professional.
I'm something.
Just don't ask you to pick out brass.
Yeah. Well, real quick, we'll come to that with that slight correction. But all of our episodes are named with the help of our awesome guild members over on Board Game Geek. We're guild number 2008. We have some other episode title suggestions in the rest of the top 6, which we'll give you at the end of the episode. But oh my goodness, Alex, I can't remember names of English towns or cities, and which is which, and which have beer and which don't.
Yep. You cannot, and pay your penance, sir. Pay your penance to the duchy.
So, slight correction. Last week, or last episode rather, I was talking about the new brass Birmingham, but I kept referring to Lincolnshire. Lincolnshire is the original version of brass. Brass Birmingham is the new one. They drink in Birmingham, but Lincolnshire is a dry village. I don't know if that's true or not.
You have absolutely no idea if that's true.
No, I don't. I just said that. That's literally what I just said, Alex.
All right. Well, I just wanted to check. Make sure everyone was very clear that you have no idea what you're talking about.
I have absolutely no idea. Anyway, so Alex, how you doing, buddy?
Better than you.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know. If only because of the law firm stuff.
Oh, no, it's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's fine. It's all good in the neighborhood.
Well, yeah, I'm fine. I'm about to head out to Colorado, not returning to New Mexico for the holidays. I'm going to be flying out to Colorado to celebrate a skication with my family. So that's what I'll be up to, and I'm excited about that. Only one more day of work before I make my way out there.
You've actually been banned from New Mexico. I don't know if you realize that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang it. I did make a lot of enemies when I was there.
Well, it's for the incident that we can't go into too much detail about, so just something to be aware of. There are several warrants out for your arrest. But hey, Alex, let's talk about something merry, because this, after all, is our Feld-Mas episode. Is my math right? Is this our 5th Feld-Mas episode? No.
It might be.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, this is our 5th Feld-Mas episode where we celebrate the miracle, the holiday that is Feld-Mas.
Yeah, and in honor of the great designer Stefan Feld, who's best known for his absolutely themeless, in most cases, games with filled to the brim with point salad.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, I think the plan today, Alex, is we don't have a news segment. You had a bunch of games that you got in, and I had a bunch of games that I got in, so I figured we'd just kind of do an extended play report. What do you think? You on board with that?
I mean, I am, if only because I don't know if we're going to celebrate the holidays. I guess news folks are off for the holidays. Maybe there's not enough news. There's some justification for this other than complete and utter laziness. So sure, let's go for it.
All right. Well, so you were at the ranch outside St. Louis, right? What's the deal with that?
I'm gonna get to that. That's a special place I have to get to. That's going to be at the very tail end of my... Don't go out of order on me, Sean.
You can lead a horse to the ranch, but you can't make him talk about games he played at that ranch, as the old saying goes.
I will get to that. Why don't you start us off, Sean? Because you have a couple of pretty spicy plays.
Yeah, I do. So, Alex, do you remember a little game called Role Player?
I do.
So that was by Thunderworks Games, a game that you liked it quite a bit, right?
I did like Role Player.
I love Role Player. I think it's fantastic. I think the expansion, the Monsters and Minions expansion, adds quite a bit to it. But anyway, this is a new game from that same company, Thunderworks Games, and it's called Dual Powers. And I backed it on Kickstarter. So this was a fairly recent fulfillment. I got it, and I think Raquel and I played it the day or two after it came in. Basically, it is a 2-player game, and the theme is the Russian Revolution. So 1917 or so. And one faction is the communists, and the other faction is the conservative government, the provisional government that's taken over after the Tsar was taken out of power. And it's been described, and I think it's somewhat accurate, as a card-driven game similar to like a Twilight Struggle, except it is much lighter, significantly lighter. And basically what you're doing is you are playing cards from hand, and they're multi-use cards. So you can either play them to recruit, in some cases recruit your supporters to certain areas that match the card, or you can use them to move recruits already on the board to different locations, or you can flip exhausted ones to their unexhausted side. And at the end of every round, so you're going to be playing seven cards, taking 7 actions, and then at the end of every round, you're going to evaluate scoring in a particular region. You know it ahead of time, and it rotates. And then you also have secret objectives each round that are different, and whoever has the most there is going to get points for that as well. And basically, it's a tug-of-war point tracker, kind of like Twilight Struggle, where if at some point you can get it all the way to your side, you're going to immediately win. And if after the end of all of the rounds of play, there is, no one's won, then whoever has it farther along is the winner. I was not crazy about this. And it was kind of a bummer. I was really looking forward to this. It's a theme that I like. It's a style of game that I like. Knowing that it's more of a quicker, more streamlined version of, say, like a Twilight Struggle. I wasn't expecting anywhere near the complexity of, say, Twilight Struggle. But yeah, it was just, I think, overly simple for my tastes. And there were some interesting decisions here and there, but I'm thinking of other games that try and accomplish this, like what's the Cuban Missile Crisis one?
28 Days, I think?
No, well, there's 13 Days. 28 Days
13 Days.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the name of the game. 28 Days is a zombie movie.
I'm looking it up. Stand by. It is 13 Days, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, okay. So that does it in I think in a better way. Also, The Trial of Louis Riel does it. It's a very much a card-driven game that's a lot faster and lighter, but has some more complexities, a little more interesting. And so I was bummed out because I was really looking forward to this. I think that if you lean more towards the lighter end of things, maybe it's a game for you. But I don't know. It's already made its way after the one play, Alex. It's made its way onto the sale pile.
Wow, that fast?
Yeah. Well, Raquel and I played it, and we were just kind of like, eh. And I knew about 2 rounds in, I was like, yeah, I don't know that I'm going to be super crazy about this. And the bummer is the art is gorgeous. The art's done by Kwanchai Moria, and it looks fantastic. So yeah, a bit of a miss. And I don't know, maybe expectations were too high, given that I'm a fan of Thunderworks games, given that, the type of game it is, and I don't know. So it was a little underwhelming. So that is Dual Powers from Thunderworks Games.
Fair enough. So we mentioned a game last episode, Sean, in our news segment, and sure enough, because it's from Stonemaier, I was able to get a chance to try it out, a production copy of a little game called Wingspan. Now, Sean, I'm going to need your help for this specific play discussion. All right, are you ready to help me out with this?
Yeah. Is the review embargo lifted?
The review embargo at this time is not lifted.
Okay.
So here's how you're going to help me out, Sean. I need you to set a timer on your phone for 1 minute.
Hey Siri, set a timer for 1 minute.
Okay, your timer is set for 1 minute.
There are so many listeners who probably just got a 1 minute timer for free on their phone. That was pretty nice, Sean.
Yeah. Time's counting down, 50 seconds.
Oh, we're already going. Oh, okay. Yeah. Wingspan. I can't talk a ton about the play, but I did say I would limit my discussion of this game to a minute. It is an insanely gorgeous production. Gameplay-wise, you are trying to build out a bird sanctuary using different actions. So you have an action of that lets you draw cards in more plentiful ways. One that lets you lay eggs, which also work as a currency for actions in the future. And then you have an area that lets you you can get more bird cards with one, and what does that top one do? That top one lets you get more resources from the bird feeder, which you draft competitively with other people. There are going to be some folks who don't think there's enough interaction with this one. I won't say much more other than that, because that would be getting too much into my thoughts of the game. I will tell you nothing else, because I'm under a review embargo. Oh, nailed it.
There you go.
Nailed it, and that's it. But in all seriousness, it is, and I think people can see this from pictures, so I don't think I'm violating any embargo, one of the most gorgeous productions of a game I've seen, in my opinion. And not surprising because it's from Stonemaier, but man, oh man, does this thing look good on the table. And I'm excited to talk about gameplay.
Ooh, you're excited to talk about gameplay? Isn't that revealing something?
I am excited, not because I liked or disliked the game, but because I'm excited one way or the other about it.
Would it violate the rules embargo, or the review embargo, to say whether or not you think I would like the game?
Yes, it would violate the rules embargo, so I will not chime in.
Dang.
I will ask you a couple of questions offline, and then we can talk it out. Maybe.
Okay, that's fine. That's totally fine.
So that's Wingspan from Stonemaier Games. Look forward to more detailed thoughts coming soon to a podcast near you.
Well, that was just perfect, Alex. I'm glad you took the time to do that.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, the next one I'm going to talk about, Alex, is probably one of my most anticipated games of this year, of 2018. And it's a new title from Teotihuacan. Oh, no. Wow. It's a new title from NSKN called Teotihuacan. I'm totally good at this.
Well, and hold the phone. It's not just NSKN anymore. They actually are changing their name as part of the merger.
The merger with?
Board and Dice.
Okay.
And their new name will be combined Board and Dice.
Okay, cool. Good to know. So this is Teotihuacan, subtitle The City of the Gods. And this is designed by Danielle Ticini and David Turksey, I think is how you say it. And Danielle Ticini, people will recognize as one of the co-designers of Tzolk'in, which has been a long-time favorite of mine. For a long time, it was my number one game, and I still absolutely love it. I have heard some describe this game, Teotihuacan, as the spiritual successor to Tzolk'in, and I think that they're right, because it is very reminiscent of Tzolk'in in a lot of ways, but it's also a very different game, and in some ways, I think it's a little bit more complex. And also, I think that there's a lot more paths to victory than there is in Tzolk'in, which I think says a lot. So basically, it is a game where you're trying to score the most points. It lasts 3 rounds, and each round is made up of between 9 and 12 turns of people taking turns, because it changes from round to round. And what you're doing is you're using dice. Moving around the board. It's basically a big rondel from one action spot to the other. So there are these 8 action spots around the board, and you have 3 dice out on the board, and you can pick one of your die and move them 1 to 3 spaces clockwise. And when you go there to the new space, you're going to trigger that action. So there are spaces that get you wood, spaces that get you stone, spaces that get you gold. Hey, those are all the resources in Tzolk'in. And then the amount that you get there is dependent on how many dice you already have there, and also the lowest value die that you have there. So, for example, if I take my 1 pip my 1 pip die over to the wood spot, I might get 1 wood. But if I have a 3 pip die there, and then I move another 3 pip die there, now it's going to be like I get 2 wood and 1 cocoa. And cocoa is kind of like the corn of this game. It's the food or the currency that's used in this game. So you definitely are trying to set up big actions, because if I'm just taking these little actions, I'm going to get behind. So you're trying to set up this nice little synergy with the other dice. But the thing is, you're also going to have to pay to enter these spaces if there are already dice present, even your own dice. You're going to pay 1 cocoa for each color that's already present on a particular space. Ultimately, you're using all of these resources to do a couple different things. And the big thing is building up this Aztec temple, this pyramid in the center of the table. And it uses, so there are these tiles that you'll stack, and there are these 4 symbols on each of the tiles. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to lay them over on other icons and match them in such a way that you're going to get some points, and then also some maybe bumps on one of the 3 or more temple tracks, which also is very Tzolk'in. In addition, Alex, as you're moving your dice around, usually they're going to gain experience. So when I go somewhere, that's very likely my 1 is going to become a 2. My 2 has become a 3. And then when you get from a 5 to a 6, you lose it. Or rather, it turns back into a 1. It ascends, and some other bonuses happen, but now you're back to square one with that die. It's just a 1. So between the building and the matching of these corners and the experience gaining of the dice, does that remind you of anything? An infamous game, Alex.
Is it? I think I may have blacked the name of this game out of my memory.
Praetor, Alex. Praetor.
Was that an Iscan?
Yes.
Oh man, did I hate that game.
You sure did. So yeah, it is a little reminiscent of Praetor. It is reminiscent very much so of Tzolk'in, but it does it all in a very clean way. It doesn't feel derivative in a negative or derogatory sense. Man, there is just, and I'm glossing over so much more of the game. There's a bunch of other stuff that you do. You gain technology like you do in Tzolk'in. In addition to building the levels of the pyramid, you're also building like the decorations or the steps leading up to it. You're trying to build houses for the nobles. There's all these tracks. All this stuff is going on. It was amazing. This first play was fantastic. This is more than likely going to be, next episode, we're going to talk about our top games of 2018. This is, after just the 1 play, it's going to easily be top 5, probably top 3 of 2018. It was that good, Alex. That good.
I'm not surprised. I mean, same designer as Tzolk'in. It had a bit in the DNA already to be something that you would really love. It does not surprise me to hear that. Now, here's the question. Would I like this better or worse than Tzolk'in?
It's going to need to be a really good rules teach. So make sure Josh has played this a couple times before he teaches you, Alex.
Okay.
Really and truly. Because, so Jared taught the game last night, and he had played it once before. There was a lot of moving pieces here. He did a good job, but after he's played it 3 and 4 times, or after whoever's played it 3 or 4 times, they're going to be able to teach it a lot faster. It was about a 40-minute rules teach. And,
oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I think you can get that down to a solid 20 once you know the game well enough. And think about it and really, process how to teach it. But I thought it was fantastic. I think there's a good chance that you will appreciate it. I think that you will like it more than Tzolk'in. I think you will like it more than Praetor, but it did have that same thing that Praetor had. If you remember, in Praetor, as you're building the city, you're putting these tiles out next to each other, and you're trying to line up the corners, because the corners are color-coded differently, and the more connections you can make of the same color, the more points you'll get. And every time, rather than letting someone just figure it out, in order to speed up the game, everyone would just be like, oh, here's the best spot right here. Oh, no, wait, try this over here. Same thing happened here, which is fine.
I did not like that about Praetor.
The matching itself, or the fact that people didn't care about it enough to just help each other.
The fact that it was such a not big deal that basically everyone around the table would just look for the thing just to speed up gameplay.
Yeah. So that happens here. So that's just something to be aware of. But man, this was fantastic. Oh, I'm so excited. I will say this. In the next couple weeks, I am trying desperately to get some plays in of some other games that I think are very strong contenders for a top 10 of the year. And that's kind of weird. Is that weird to say, you think? Like, I'm anticipating from what I've heard about them, what I've seen about them, having read some of the rules in some cases. I'm intentionally trying to get them in because I think they could make my top 10. Is that weird?
No, I think it makes your end-of-year list more complete, and I think you're taking advantage of the fact that we're not reviewing a game for another month because our next episode, spoiler alert, is going to be our top 10 of the year.
Right. So the three I'm trying to get in are Newton from Cranio Creations and Simon, and also Underwater Cities, the new Vladimir Sushi. Is it Vladimir Sushi?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And also the new GMT game that I just got fulfilled from P500, Space Corp, which is a very lighter High Frontiers, which is a fantastic game. And I hope our buddy Mike Canavan from Rocky Mountain Gaming Vacation gets a chance to check this out. It's not nearly as crunchy as High Frontier, but it still looks really good. In fact, Alex, I'm currently sleeving cards for it as I'm talking about Teotihuacan and other games. Because
oh man,
I got very little time. I'm trying to get it all done, Alex.
You've got about approximately 3% of the year left.
Yeah, I'll make it happen. Let's see what happens.
Good luck. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. So that's Teotihuacan. I'm hoping you can get a play of it in and like it well enough to suffer through a couple more plays so we can review it.
Okay, fair enough. And I have access to it. I will say. And I'll put this out on the guild to see if this counts as conflict. The newly formed Board and Dice, Monochromatic Wolf has published 3 of their games from the original Board and Dice over here in the U.S. So I don't know if we'd be too close to that situation. Certainly we don't have the rights to it here in the U.S., so it's not a Monochromatic Wolf game. I don't know. We'll talk it out. It's an unusual situation with that company.
Okay.
Anyway. All right. Next game I'm going to talk about is a game from Renegade called Gunkimono. Sean, have you heard of Gunkimono and or played it?
I know to both. Yeah.
No to both. So this is an area control game. It's published by Renegade Games, and it is designed by Jeffrey Allers. I'm trying to see if there's a co-designer. Nope, just Jeffrey Allers, who also did Alea Acta Est and a couple of other games. Anyway, so this is a game where you are laying tiles. It's sort of a domino game, I guess you'd say, where you're going to lay out tiles and then choose to take from each side of the tile either the number of points, and you get points from the number of tiles it's connected to. So if I place my domino and one end of it is in a block of five different red squares, I can get 5 points, or I can get the number of honor on the red track from the side of the tile I played. So that could be 1 honor, it could be 2 honor, just depends. You're going to get points for when you place. You're also going to get points for first to go up the honor track will get a certain number of points. But then the big way to get points in this game is if you raise your levels up to a certain amount on all of the honor tracks, you will unlock your stronghold. And that stronghold can go inside of one area on the board that becomes effectively your territory. You are no longer, other players can no longer score from it. You're not allowed to score from it directly, though you do score for it at the end of each turn. You also have little half dominoes that you can place instead once per game. You can also build onto multiple levels, but that's the gist of it. It's a fairly simple rule set for a game that plays 2 to 5 players, area control, playing dominoes onto the board. Sean, does this one sound like it would be intriguing to you?
Yeah, I'd play that.
I think you would play that, and I think there's a decent chance you'd enjoy it. I've played this a couple of times at 2 different counts, at 3 players and at 5 players. And I will say this, ignore strongholds at your own peril. In the 5-player game, I taught the rules and made sure to emphasize, hey, this is how you get strongholds and they're a big deal. And yet I was the only one who bothered to get strongholds. And I just about lapped the field, and it was not close. So yeah, Pay attention to strongholds. I did enjoy the game. It's again, I like simple rule sets with enough depth to them. This is one that fits firmly into the Abby zone, the girlfriend zone, game with simple enough rule set but enough depth. I always love games like that if I can find them, because it means I can play them with more folks, and I cherish any game I get to play with her. We had a monochromatic wolf title I just tested out with her that did not test well on the Abby test. This one I think would do decently. Give it a look. This is one that got some praise and some buzz when it first came out, and I don't know how it's been doing on an ongoing basis. I don't know if a ton of people have looked at this one, but I think you should. It's a nice area control title from Renegade Games. Big thanks to Matthew Teitelbaum for teaching me this one at PAX Unplugged, and scooped up a copy for the library over here. So yeah, that's Gunkimono. Give it a check. Give it a look.
So Alex, we got in a copy of Star Realms, the new standalone expansion, Star Realms Frontiers. How did you, so actually you got this, but said, this is a Sean game. I'll send this to Sean.
Okay. So way back at Dice Tower Con.
Oh, was it that far back?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that far back.
Oh, but you didn't send it to me right away.
I sent it to you maybe a month later, but not that long after, bud.
Okay.
I could look it up if we really want to go there, but it's fine. So the lovely Victoria Mann from White Wizard Games dropped off a copy and said, "Hey, is this something you guys can talk about on the podcast?" I said, "Yeah, it's more of a Sean thing because Sean loves Star Realms a whole lot more, so we'll let Sean talk about it." And then I sent it to Sean along with a copy of a game he used to love and hopefully has found his love for again that will go unmentioned on this podcast. Or mentioned, I don't know, Sean.
I will say, Alex, that I have printed up a 3D insert for this unmentionable game.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's good news. I'm happy to hear it.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a very good sign.
It's Deception Murder in Hong Kong. But that's fine. Moving on.
All right. Well, fair enough. And that's a story for another day. That's a story we haven't told on the podcast yet, but
haven't we? I thought we had.
The full story? I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I don't know that we should.
I don't think we've told that story yet. Someday. Anyway, Victoria was kind enough to drop off a copy. I sent it over to Sean, and then it didn't make it into the show for some reason. And then at a couple of conventions since, I have been hit with some threats to get my legs broken if we didn't talk about this on the show. So, so I'm glad we're finally getting a chance to do it. And by we, I mean the Duke of We, a.k.a. Sean. So, Sean, let's talk about some Star Realms stuff.
Yes. So, Victoria, I apologize. So here's what needs to happen from now on. White Wizard just needs to do a big box version of these because it's a little box and with some little expansion packs, a little like a foil wrapper, like magic packs. And so it just kind of got lost, but that's my bad. So yeah, this is a new standalone expansion for Star Realms. And you can mix cards in, or if you want, with the other sets, because there's the original game and then there's Colony Wars. And I have probably played Star Realms, I don't know, somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000 times. I don't know how many, right? I've got to figure it out because it very, very often is my go-to. I've got a couple minutes to kill. I don't feel like reading the news because it's depressing, or I can't watch something or listen to something. So I'll play Star Realms real quick. And I love Star Realms. I played the base game a ton. I've played it with all of the expansions. I've played Colony Wars. But most of my plays of Star Realms have been on the app. In fact, I don't own base Star Realms, but I do own base Hero Realms with a bunch of the expansions. But anyway, so this is Frontiers. It is a deck building game. It's typically I prefer to play head-to-head, although you could play like 3-player, 4-player. There's some different formats. My preference is head-to-head. I think that's kind of like the purest way to play it. But basically, you have a starter hand of cards these ships that generate money or that generate combat, and you're buying cards from a shared center row. And the cool thing about Star Realms is when you buy certain ships, they have these cool abilities, but if you can link them with other ships of the same type or other bases of the same type, there are these bonus abilities that get triggered. And so each individual card is much more powerful with the other cards than it is individually. So that's really cool. And this set was really cool. Like here's the thing. Each of the factions, so there's the Machine Cult, which is red, the Federation, Trade Federation, which is blue, the Blobs, which are green, and what's the yellow? I think it's the Imperials. They each have their own identity in terms of how they play. So like the blue guys, the Trade Federation, they're able to heal a lot. So they do their damage, they draw you some cards, blah, 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 but they also heal you. So instead of just doing damage, they're helping you heal up. The red guys, the Machine Cult, they let you thin your deck. So you can get rid of the crappy starter cards so that you're only seeing your really cool, powerful starter cards. The yellow guys have some card draw, but then they also can force your opponent to discard cards, which is really sweet. And then the blobs, what does the blobs do? I don't know what they're distinctive. Like, they're usually very high power. But anyway, what's really cool is it feels familiar, right? Because of the way that the factions play. So this new set feels familiar, but the cards are different. And I've played the base set and I've played Colony Wars so much that you just have like a feel for, it's almost like a feel for the meta game. I don't know that makes sense in this context, but like, you know what cards you're looking for, you know what cards you're hoping to buy, you know what cards you're hoping to get flipped over. And so now it's kind of relearning that again. And it's having to say, oh, wait a second, I don't recognize that instantly, you know exactly what it does just by looking at it. I have to read it real quick, which is fun to kind of rediscover that, but it still has that familiarity. One of the cool things I look for is what are the big ships in each of the factions. Can I tell you about the big ships, Alex?
Tell me about the big ships, Sean.
Okay. So you have the Nanobot Swarm for the Machine Cult. It does some decent damage. Then it lets you draw 2 cards. I like that. And you can then scrap 2 cards, which is the deck thinning, from your hand to your discard pile. Super good. Costs $8 though. That's pretty expensive. The Imperial Flagship, it does 7 damage, draw 2 cards. Again, I love drawing cards. And then it has a faction ability. If it triggers, your opponent discards a card. All right, this one's super cool. The Blob Alpha, it just does 10 damage. That's all it does. Just 10 damage. Doesn't have to trigger with anything. It just does 10 damage. And then there's the Federation Battleship, which does 5 damage, heals 5. It has a faction ability to destroy a base. And then if you want to, you can scrap the card or trash the card to immediately heal 10 more. So those are the big guys. Okay. So the other thing that they sent us were the Commander Packs, which are something that they kind of brought over from Hero Realms. So in Hero Realms, you have these class decks, and basically it is a unique starter deck with unique abilities and some slightly different cards. So there's some of the basic cards, but then there's some slightly different cards. And what's really cool is these cards count as, some of them count as double faction. So they'll count as both Imperials and the Blob. So whenever you play this one card, it will trigger effects for both factions, which is really cool. I only got to get one game in with the Commanders, but it's my preferred way to play Hero Realms. So I think that would be my preferred way to play Star Realms too, just because it adds a little asymmetric power, and I don't know, it's fun. I like it. So yeah, I think this is really sweet. I'm looking forward to playing some more Star Realms in real life as opposed to just on the tablet. Raquel likes Star Realms too. I think she likes Hero Realms a little bit more, but she had fun playing this.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah.
I have not played Star Realms in so long I didn't understand half of what you were talking about.
Beautiful.
But I did confirm the reality, and I want to be completely open and transparent with the reality of things. I did send this to you 2 months after Dice Tower Con.
Okay, all right.
2 months.
Right.
So you would have had it in hand in September. Yeah. Just saying.
So the balance is on me, right? We're talking 5 months.
Yeah.
You ate up 2/5 of that, so it's 40% your fault.
Yep, I'll take that. That's fine. I'll take the heat.
Just to make it easy, we'll round it up to 50. Just so the math.
It might have been 40% my fault, but it would have been 100% of my legs getting broken.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm always willing to play with house money.
Fair enough.
So yeah, if you are a deck builder fan, if you're a Star Realms fan, I enthusiastically can recommend Frontiers.
Very good.
Frontier? I keep forgetting what it's called. Frontiers, plural.
Yeah, well, you had it right the first time.
I did.
You kept saying it.
It's all the self-doubt.
Oh, well. All right. two quick things to talk about before I get to the big ticket item.
Oh, boy.
So one of them is Smithison, the constantly immovable, was challenged by Jamie Stegmaier, and Smithson's doing pretty well still. So just want to throw that out there.
Have you had the opportunity to play against a horseman deck yet, Alex?
My friend at work, Tyler, who does graphics for us, acquired a horseman deck. I have not played against a horseman deck, but I keep hearing they're very good.
So the idea here is it's the Sanctum faction, and they are rare cards. They're 4 horsemen, and if you're going to get one in your deck, you're going to have all 4. And in fact, there is even a double horseman deck that's out there that's going for like $1,500, $2,000 or something. But anyway, it's pretty good. It's some really good synergy. Rory, of course, Rory opened one, right? And he had been undefeated, Alex. And then I played him with one of his own decks, mind you. And in 2 games, guess how many keys he forged with his horseman deck?
0.
0 keys.
Oh, man.
In 2 games.
Okay. All right.
So the deck I had was good, but Alex, sometimes it's just the skill of the pilot. It's the skill of the pilot, Alex. It's how you pull on that stick.
Now, what is this world-beating deck that you have? What is your favorite deck currently?
So I actually opened this one deck. I can't remember the name of it, but I opened it just blind to play against our buddy Matt Walker, and it was a what's the beast? Where are the beast guys? Untamed. Untamed, yeah. And Logos. In a game full of combos, it's a combo deck, if that makes sense. Like, it's super combo-y.
All right.
And it felt like I was playing an Esper artifact combo deck for Magic. For Magic people, you know what I'm talking about here. Everyone else will be like, I don't know what that means.
I did the no one can see this, but I just did the like over my head symbol.
Yep, good job.
Yep. All right. So anyway, that's and I also got to play in a 5-minute dungeon. Sean, have you played 5-minute dungeon?
I haven't, but I really want to.
It's a ton of fun. I like these games that are kind of frantic, real-time cooperative games. Frantic real-time in general, I usually enjoy just fine. Frantic real-time cooperative, it's a solid combo. So 5-minute dungeon is designed by Connor Reed. It's been put out by Cosmos and Spin Master, and this is a ton of fun. Basically, there are cards that are going to flip up that are enemies you have to defeat, and you have to defeat them by playing cards from hand of the amount. So they might take swords to defeat, or they might take scrolls to defeat, or they might take shields to defeat, and you just have to play enough stuff to defeat the card and move it out of the way. It's real time. You have 5 minutes to complete the dungeon, although there's some powers that can freeze that clock and keep it from ticking down. If you overplay for a monster that you encounter, you play too many cards, for instance, too bad, so sad. That deck kind of resembles health, so you can throw cards you want, all you want at these kind of things, but you're going to be wasting valuable resources. So it's this balance of trying to move quickly while still having enough resources to defeat what's coming in the deck. There will also be things called curses that will slow you down. So, for instance, in our game, we had a curse where you had to all of a sudden just play one-handed, which in a real-time cooperative game is very, very, very difficult indeed. We did win by the skin of our teeth. I think we had like 20 seconds left. It was a 5 or 6 player game of this, and it was a ton of fun. And I might scoop up a copy of this because of how much fun it was.
Cool.
So yeah, it's 5-minute dungeon. And back to you, Sean.
Hey, we're talking about a bunch of games here, Alex.
A bunch.
So, I got to play a newer roll and write. Have you heard of Welcome 2?
I have played it a number of times.
Have you talked about it on the show?
I think so.
No.
I think I might have. Yeah.
No.
Well, I should have if I haven't. It's actually one of my favorite games of the year.
Wow, spoiler alert, Alex.
I would call it a flip and fill.
No. It is draw and draw.
Draw and draw. That's it. Yeah, that's better.
I don't know if anyone else has come up with that or not.
I'm sure I guarantee you someone else has come up with that.
What is it? Avenue, right? Avenue was a draw and draw?
Oh, I don't know.
So, of course, we're talking about like these roll and writes, right? Where you roll dice, do something with those dice, and then you draw on this pad to do something, and that's the game. Here, you are building 3 neighborhoods, and there are all of these houses on these 3 streets, and they range from 2 to 10, 2 to 12, and 2 to 15 or something like that. And so you're going to have these 3 decks of cards, and you're going to flip them over so that you see in one column, there's a type of action and then a house number. So again, you're 2 to 15. And then same thing with the second pile, same thing with the third pile. And you have to pick one of those columns. So if I pick the 3, I have to write the 3 in one of the houses on one of the streets. I could put it wherever I want, but basically I have to write things sequentially, or not sequentially, but in order. So I could put a 3, and then immediately after that, I could skip the 4 and just put the 5 and so on. But the idea here is if I am unable to write them in, I'm going to get a penalty. And if I can't write numbers in 3 times, that's going to end the game. And again, I've lost some serious points. But then there are the actions, which are going to give you some different abilities. So, for example, there are some that might let you fill in a park in the neighborhood that you're in or the street that you're in, and more parks are going to give you some more points. There are things that will let you adjust the number up or down by 1 or 2, which is pretty helpful. You can build pools in certain houses, which are going to give you potentially some more points. Lots of just little things there. Oh, eventually, though, you need fences, right? Because you need to not just have the houses, but you need to have these estates, these little fenced-in communities. And depending on the size of those will depend how many points they're worth. But you can also take actions that are going to say all of my 3 estate areas are worth 1 more point, or now they're worth another point. And so you can kind of plan on saying, all right, I'm going to bump up my 3s and my 5s to be worth a bunch more points. I'm going to focus on that. But then there's also some objective cards you're trying to meet. So a lot of cool tension here because, number 1, you're trying to make sure that you can write things out sequentially. Number 2, sometimes you're looking for a very particular action. And so maybe I really need this action, but man, I'm not crazy about that number. So it's interesting having those different things you're trying to accomplish. And then also, hey, I need to work on this objective here because there's some pretty solid points and this person's about to get it. Maybe I need to make sure I can get it right now, even though, again, I'm going to take a number that's not ideal or an action that's not ideal. So, yeah, it's really good, Alex.
It's really good, right?
Yeah. Have you downloaded the app?
No, I have not.
So, yeah, I haven't played with it yet, but immediately I downloaded it. And you don't need the paper. I mean, obviously, you can't play it on the app. This is just like your score pad. So you can play it and just fill stuff in on the app. And it looks really good. I don't know if you can see that, Alex.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a free download on Android and iOS. And so next time I will definitely try it with it. It's a pretty cool little interface. I think this game's fantastic. I don't remember you talking about this, but
I can't find it immediately in the show notes or from searching, so it's possible. But I've played it a ton. I've played it a ton this year.
Okay.
I like the game a ton. I like it a lot.
No, it's fantastic. It's also a very solid contender for my top 10 of 2018.
Yeah, it's certainly not a roll and write, but it has that feel of a roll and write, and I enjoy it like it's one. It's one of my favorites of that category of games, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think it belongs in the category. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, very cool. I'm glad you finally got a chance to play that because it's a ton of fun. And I need to get a copy. I don't have a copy yet, but I should probably get one.
Well, that is welcome to ... And that does it for me, Alex. I hope you could take us home.
I can take us home because I've got I saved the best for last in this. Not that all of the other games I talked about before aren't wonderful, fantastic games in their own right, but I took a trip, Sean, to somewhere very special. So let me set the stage for this a little bit. There, out of the blue, a few months ago, a listener of the podcast, a guy named David Rehagen, reached out to me and said, "Hey, Alex, big fan of the show. I just opened this ranch this year, a couple hours west of St. Louis. You're more than welcome to come check it out on the house anytime you'd like." And I said, "Okay, yeah, whatever, sounds cool." And then I looked at the website and I said, oh man, I can't wait to go to this place. So this place is the Gamers Ranch, or just Gamers Ranch. I don't know. I always add the, and I don't know if it's actually there or not. I'm sure I'll get some sort of chastisement either way. In any case, it is a 167-acre property, again, about 2 hours west of St. Louis. Pretty remote area. You have to go down a couple of dirt roads and back highways to find your way to this spot. It has a man-made lake stocked with fish. It has enough trails to go ATVing out on. It has virtual reality setups, an indoor half basketball court. It has stuff you can build model planes with. It has RC cars, and I'm going to forget some stuff because there's a ton of stuff in this place. It also has, I mentioned the virtual reality. All right, it has PlayStation 4 Pros in every single room, and maybe the biggest thing of all, it has a library of somewhere in the range of 850 to 1,000 games. I don't know the exact number, but a game library that rivals most conventions, and not a library that's quantity over quality, a library that is actually really quality. In fact, they have Teotihuacan in the library to give you a sense of he keeps this thing pretty up to date because he'll swing through Miniature Market every time he's in St. Louis to restock it with kind of the latest hotness. So, Sean, I have been to some special places in my life. Some really special places.
Okay, that sounds weird, but go on.
This is up there with one of the most special places I've been to on a number of fronts. One, if you're looking for relaxation, something that far away from the city, the stars are out, it's beautiful. There's so many different options of things to do. It kind of felt like a Rocky Mountain gaming vacation if you had the resort to yourself, and everything at the resort was on site right there. David has a wonderful dog named Ratchet who plays basketball. So you go grab the basketball, you'll toss it to him, he'll bop it with his nose. It's a nice little Air Bud moment if you're into that. That was maybe one of my favorite things there. There's a kitchen that you can bring food to with a barbecue grill. Oh, it was so great, Sean. It was so great. And we had a kind of a monochromatic wolf retreat out there. And just about everyone there was already making plans to come back, trying to see when a good spot for us to get back out there again is. Because this is a place you can book. You can book and have groups as large as, I think, 20 at the moment. And he's adding more bedrooms onto it. One of the coolest things about it to me, Sean, was this is someone's dream personified. It's all of his interests, all of his hobbies in one location. And something that he's kind of opened up to other people, made available to the community to come check out. And it's an amazing spot. It really is. The updated game library, the nice table space, the modern decor. There's just I could keep raving about this thing. And the only downside was we went in the winter, not in the summer when enjoying the lake might have been a bigger thing. Because he has a giant inflatable trampoline out on the lake. He has kayaks. Again, it's stocked with fish, if folks like that. I did make the silly mistake of trying to jump on the inflatable trampoline, which took a short swim, but it was a short swim in a lake that had up until several days before been completely frozen. So that wasn't the smartest decision I've ever made.
Was Dan King there to save you again?
He was not there to save me. I could have used his help, though. I really could have. But yeah, this is a tremendous spot, Sean. An absolutely tremendous spot. I don't know if it would be even remotely possible to get you out here, but you would love this place. And this would be somewhere that as a family spot would actually still work just fine because of the amount of things that are not games to do. Yeah.
Wow.
It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. This place gets a 6 on the Ducal scale. It spoke to me in a lot of ways. I mean, again, that kind of blend of outdoors and indoors, that nerdy stuff. He has a HTC Vive Pro with Beat Saber and super hot VR and all sorts of fun stuff on it. That ended up taking up a ton of time. I was up until 6 a.m. one of the nights just Beat Sabering away, mostly to Earth, Wind, and Fire September on repeat. Have you heard of Beat Saber? Do you know Beat Saber?
Yes, I'm familiar with Beat Saber, but maybe our listeners are not.
All right, it's basically DDR with lightsabers.
Yeah, it's a very weird mix. Like, it's cool, but I wonder how someone came up with it.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone came up with it, but I'm glad they did because that game was tons of fun. Warm Springs appears to be the name of the retreat. Is that what you were thinking of?
Maybe. I don't know.
All right.
I just remember bits and pieces of things, apparently.
Well, in any case, huge thanks to David. I, in all honesty, was hesitant to talk about it on the show, if only because I don't want other people discovering it, because I'd like the place to be as open as possible so I can maybe make a return trip sometime. I'm worried if too many people find out about it, it's going to be too in demand. So
I don't want him to be successful.
Yeah, and I will tell you this, at least from talking to him. This is not a profit motive. This is something where he's kind of looking to make costs back and share something with the community. But I don't think his intent with this place is necessarily to turn a profit. He could certainly price it higher than he has it priced and still get probably the same number of people. It's a remarkable place, Sean. It really is. There are those certain places in your life that you just think, oh man, I could be here a lot longer. I remember on my big Asian trip. Bagan was one of those places, and to a lesser extent, the Gili Gila Hostel, now called the Rabbit Tree Hostel, in just this middle of the island in Gilimeno in Bali. This was up there with that kind of an experience, just a complete soul restorative kind of place. I really loved it.
Very cool.
Yeah. Now, in terms of any games I played out there, whatever. We'll get to that later. Hey, that's going to do it for the games we played. Let's head on over to our review. Sean, when I get a handful of Berkey jerky, I love just sitting back and enjoying life at the old Topper. Boy, I remember those days at the Topper, just sitting back, eating nothing but jerky and Berkey Spice, Happy Mouth Spice. I don't know, I'm plugging a lot of Berkey stuff here, Sean.
Well, Alex, I don't know that we should be talking about Berkey Spice or Berkey's Jerky because they are not technically sponsors of the Dukes of Dice. only Game Toppers LLC. So I'm a little hesitant here to talk about anything else Berkey related.
Let me consult with my attorney.
Oh, wait, that's me. Yeah, that's fine. But Alex, let's do talk about a Game Topper. You are the proud owner of a Game Topper. You have one over at Monochromatic Wolf. What's the whole idea here with these Game Toppers?
Well, here's the thing. If you like upgrading your table experience, if you like playing on a nice surface, you want to really have that game sparkle when you have that game night, there's not going to be much of a better bet for your money than a Game Topper. You can pack it up when you need it to go. You can set it out when it's time to play. It's easily customizable with a bunch of different mats, cup holders, and the like. If you are in the market for a game table but don't want to overspend, you're not going to do much better than a Game Topper.
So go check out Game Toppers at GameToppersLLC.com and hit up Berkey at the next con you see for some jerky or some Happy Mouth.
Tell them it's on the Dukes.
Wait, does that mean we're paying for it?
No.
Wait, no. Don't tell them it's on the Dukes.
I mean, maybe.
No.
That's Game Toppers. GameToppersLLC.com. Sean, for many years, a great debate has been held about a great river. Is it Tigris or is it Tigris? Sean, which one is it?
It's Tigris. There's no debate. You just can't pronounce things.
No, it might be. It might be something else. Well, Sean, no matter what you call that magnificent river, Tigris or Tigris, there's a game that celebrates it. It's Trade on the Tigris from Tasty Minstrel Games, designed by Jeff Engelstein and Ryan Sturm. This game encourages you to be the best trader in a civilization in the cradle of civilization. Will you be a dictator, or will you be more democratic in how you approach things? Will you try and scam other people through trades, or will you pull off the perfect set by cooperating with your neighbors? Who knows? You'll find out if you pick up Trade on the Tigris.
Go check out Trade on the Tigris and all of TMG's other awesome titles at playtmg.com. So Alex, I've decided that you can be the new boss, as long as you take care of all of us. You can take care of all of us?
I mean, I gotta get my beak wet. But yeah, sure, I'll take care of you.
You can get your beak wet, since you're a critter of some sort anyway.
I'm a pelican. I'm a beautiful pelican.
But Alex, just make sure, boss, that we all get our beaks wet.
Everyone knows Boss Pelican takes care of his own.
Because if you don't, Boss Pelican Alex, we may replace you with someone a little bit more amenable to all of our individual interests.
No one replaces Pelican Boss Alex.
If you like this little teleplay, perhaps you should check out Good Critters from Arcane Wonders. Good Critters is a game for 4 to 8 criminal critters pulling off heists and fighting over the loot. Whoever's chosen as boss can distribute the loot however they like, but it's the crew that has the final say. If the crew doesn't like the split, they might just tell the boss to take a hike and put some other critter in charge. In the end, the critter collects the most valuable stash of loot is the winner. So Alex, this will be available for purchase in November of 2018.
That's good, critters, and if you want to find out more about Arcane Wonders' other titles, including the Dice Tower Essentials line, you can go to arcanewonders.com. 'Twas the night before Feld-Mas, and all through the duchy, not a gamer was stirring, not even the ducal we. The shipping notices were all printed with care, in hopes that St. Stephan's games soon would be there. The players were nestled all snug in their beds, because game night was over, and they fell asleep instead. And Sean was in his kerchief, and I in my cap, and we cuddled up close for a good ducal nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw on my ducal sash. When what to my wondering eyes I should view but a miniature sleigh pulled by 8 boxes anew, with a little old driver with a chest round and barreled. I knew in a moment it must be Stefan Feld. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Delphi, now Merlin, now Aquasphere and Rialto, on castles, on Trajan, on Merlin and Macau. To the top of the shelf, to the top of the table. Now game away, fast as you're able. And then in a twinkling I heard on the ceiling the scraping and scratching of each game's themeless feeling. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney, St. Stephan came with a bound. He was dressed all in plaid with a button-down shirt, and his clothes gave the overall impression he was kind of a flirt. A bundle of games was flung on his back, and he looked like a designer with too many prototypes to pack. His bald head, how it twinkled, his expression, how merry. His eyes were packed behind glasses like tiny little cherries. He gave a glance like he was a man in the know, and the beard on his chin was coiffed just so. He was surprisingly buff, muscles worthy of a ballad. His body looked like it had been well fed by point salad. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word and gave the gift of the millennium, stuffing the stockings with copies of Carpe Diem. And laying a finger aside his nose and giving a nod up the chimney he rose. He sprung to his sleigh, to his games gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim as he flew out of sight, "Merry Feld-Mas to all, now try not to fight."
Well, Alex, thank you for that lovely Feld-Mas poem. It's put me in quite the Feld-Mas cheer.
Have you had I would say traditional eggnog, but I don't know what's traditional for Feld-Mas.
Feldnog.
Feldnog? Okay, great.
Yeah, definitely. So, Alex, we're talking today about Carpe Diem because for every Feld-Mas episode, we, of course, review a Stefan Feld game. That makes perfect sense. I don't know how we came up with such a great idea.
I don't know. I think it was just coincidence, actually.
Well, so longtime listeners of the show will know that Feld has a very special place in my heart, and I think in Alex's heart, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So this is Carpe Diem, which is Latin for seize the day, Alex.
Seize the day, Sean. I've told you, I seized that day really good today.
You seized it, man, boy, you seized it all right. Ah, geez, Alex, you seized it. So this is on the lighter end of a Feld game, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah. Basically, you are taking on the role of a 1 BC Roman patrician trying to build your estate, which is a very common theme in Feld games, it seems like. And the main way you're doing this is by going about these 7 spaces with your worker. There are 2 options where you can move from the space you're in to 2 different spaces, and then they kind of branch off from there. And basically, in each of these spaces, there are 4 tiles, and you'll be taking one of these tiles, and you'll be placing it on your player board, and it has Carcassonne rules for the tile placement in that things have to match. And basically, you're trying to complete these different fields or structures. So there are 4 types of fields, and when you complete them, you're going to get some amount of fish, herbs, grapes, or chickens. And depending on how big your field is, or or lake in the case of fish will determine how many of those things that you get. There are also 4 types of these buildings. One of them will give you a bump on a kind of an initiative track. One of them will give you some gold. You'll actually get to turn your resources into gold, which is wild, and then get an extra gold. Another one will give you access to an additional tile, which you could then chain into some other things. And then yet another type of building will give you some bread, which has some interesting uses, which I'll describe here in a second. The other main type of building you can build are your villas, which can be as big or as little as you want. There are some chimneys, and basically the more chimneys that you have, the more these villas are going to be worth at the end of the game. So they're only there for end game scoring. And then finally, there are 3 types of buildings that are just one and done. They're self-contained on the one tile. You don't have to actually connect things to them. Basically, there is the fountain, which can give you some choice of end game secret scoring objectives. There is the baker, which will give you a bread. And then there is the merchant, which will give you a gold. So kind of smaller versions of the other bigger buildings that you can complete. Now, the game's going to last 4 rounds. And at the end of each round, you're going to have a scoring. Basically, on one side of the board, you are laying out these different objective cards. It's dependent on the number of players. And at the end of each round, in the initiative order you've determined up on that track that I mentioned before, it's called like the banderole track.
The banderole track, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, that's going to give you first choice in being able to claim 2 of these objective cards. So basically, they're laid out in a grid. And so depending on where the card is in the grid, it may be bordering 4 other cards, 3 other cards, 2 other cards, whatever. And you're going to put a disc in between 2 of the cards, and then you can score both of those cards. And so some of them may have you turn in resources for points. Some of them may want you to have certain things in your play area, for example, completed fields or certain number of chimneys or whatever. And so you're trying to maximize that scoring as best you can. But the trick is that you're only going to score that once and your disc stays out there. So that combination of scoring is now gone for the rest of the game. And so your options for what you're able to score are going to go down. Finally, after the full 4 rounds are played, 4 scorings are done. There's an endgame scoring. Again, you're going to have your villas, those endgame fountain cards that I talked about. You're going to turn your resources into points. There's also these frames, the frame around your board, which has different types of requirements. And if you're able to basically bisect a certain type of field or a certain type of building, it's going to give you some bonus points at the end of the game. And really, that's how you play Carpe Diem. Most points is the winner. Alex, what are your initial thoughts on Carpe Diem?
So we talk a lot about how Stefan Feld games are just about the gameplay. And as long as the gameplay is really solid and good, the look of it is going to be rough in a lot of cases, and oh well, it doesn't matter. This is a Stefan Feld game that, to me, is soured so much by the look of it to the point that it actually affects gameplay and overall enjoyment of the game. I think this game, if it were done properly, had a proper production, would have a higher score than the score I'm going to give it. That being said, I find the gameplay in this fairly satisfying. I don't think you're going to find it very satisfying personally, Sean. That's my guess as to what you're going to think. But I like it a lot. I like the options it gives you, the drafting, the competing over spaces, the trying to move up on the draft order to try and pick that set of matching goals, trying to plan things out so you don't get punished and lose points by not fulfilling one of those goals. I like how it gives you a couple of different paths to victory. I wouldn't say it's the most divergent of any Stefan Feld game. It's certainly not Castles in terms of the number of paths you have, but I think there's enough to keep it interesting. I do have some questions long term about replayability as a result of not a huge amount of variability, but for now, in the plays I've gotten of it, I've really enjoyed this one so far, Sean, and it's a real shame about the production, which I intend to spend a good amount of time on. So that's my initial thoughts. What about you?
I don't like it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So obviously it is a lighter Feld game. It's, I would say, lighter than like La Isla. And in some ways less interesting to me than La Isla. Now, so a lot of people say, well, okay, Sean doesn't like light games. No, I do like light games, but it just has to have either the game time has to be limited. It has to, I guess there are certain things I'm looking for in light games, right? And there are some that I absolutely love, that I think are just so clever. Like, so for example, Azul. This is probably slightly heavier than, no, it's heavier than Azul.
No, it's not slightly. Yeah, come on.
It's heavier than Azul. But I'd play Azul over this game any day, for example.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's not that it's not just that it's light. It just wasn't particularly interesting. And there were some things that did hold this game back. Production's part of it. There's some design choices that were a little weird. So yeah, it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite Feld games. And I'll say this. So longtime listeners will know that Raquel is a huge Feld fangirl. He is her favorite designer. Castles, Bora Bora, Trajan are three of her absolute favorite games. She's always, she'll never turn out a play of those. They're all sixes for her. And you know, every now and then when we're purging the collection, I'll always like joke, oh, well, we should get rid of this one, this particular Feld. And she'll be like, no, we can't. After her first play of this, she said, well, I mean, we do have so many. I guess at a certain point, we don't have to keep all of them.
Oh boy.
I was like, what? So yeah, we had very similar thoughts of the game. And I think it's fine. And I'd play it again. I don't know that I actually do want to get rid of it. But I think if I'm keeping it because it's a Feld and there's that completionist part of me. The collector. So, rulebook, Alex, what'd you think about the rulebook?
It was decent enough to learn from. There are a couple of questions where you're wondering, hey, should I have some other starting resources here? But no, I think it lays it out pretty easily. Again, this is not that heavy of a game, and the rulebook doesn't get in the way and make it a heavier experience than it actually is. Some of how it groups buildings in there, I understand why they did it that way. I don't know. My bigger issues with the game come in the next section. This was not something that held the game back for me.
So, Alex, here's a problem I had with the rulebook. First off, I will say that I like how Alea Ravensburger does their rulebooks, where they have like 2/3 of the page are the rules, and there's this little like band in the side of each page that's like the quick summary, so that when you're referencing things back, you don't have to like sit there and read through everything. I do like how they do that. But I will say, do you recall from the rules, Alex, the order in which you place your meeples in the center of the board?
You place them before the tiles are out, so it doesn't matter.
Well, it does, doesn't it?
In the starting setup, you just place your meeples individually, randomly on different tiles, and then the tiles themselves are dealt out afterwards. It's in the setup steps.
Does it say randomly though?
I believe I don't know if it says randomly or not. It doesn't matter unless the tiles are out there, though.
It absolutely matters.
Why?
What if it's a 3-player game and you have two people that are right next to each other, and one person that's like on the opposite side or slightly opposite side where they can't meet up right away, so that the two players are kind of, the player going after has less choice. I don't know. It's just weird.
I think that's going to be a pretty. I get what you're saying. I think that's going to be a decently rare situation where that's going to actually matter that early in a game.
It's just weird that it didn't give you an indication of how to set that up.
Yeah. Let me double check that. But my understanding was you set your. I think you're supposed to set them out pretty much randomly, if I recall that being the term.
It doesn't quite say that. I mean, we spent a good amount of time trying to figure that out. It was kind of annoying.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything. It just says place on any of the 7 semicircular spaces in the center of the game board that is unoccupied. So yeah. It doesn't determine turn order itself until later. And I think the game is assuming what I would assume, which is that it actually doesn't really matter.
But it does.
Yeah, it doesn't, though.
Because if you have... Well, all right.
That early in the game, I don't think it matters. I think later in the game, if you had to consistently replace where that meeple was going, it's not going to matter. After 7 moves, people are going to end up where they end up. I think you're right
near the end of a round, but initially, especially, I think it's problematic.
Well, but I think the game attempts to compensate for that by giving the first player a slight disadvantage on points. So if you're near someone else and potentially you're competing for the same thing, there's at least a small disadvantage in there built in.
Well, so let's talk about that, right? But here's the thing too: the order, you don't know who's going to be first.
Well, technically, if you read the rules in terms of how you're supposed to pick first player, you already know because it tells you to have the youngest player go first.
Oh, true. Well, let's talk then about the production, art, etc. Are you a fan?
I think it was pretty clear from my initial thoughts. I am not, Sean, and it's not just that it's ugly, right? If it was just ugly, that would be fine, right? Castles of Burgundy is ugly, and the gameplay shines through anyway. There are plenty of Feld games that don't look the best on the table, but because the gameplay is so solid, it's fine. The trick with Castles of Burgundy is the production doesn't actively get in the way of the fun of the game. And in this context, the production absolutely, in several instances, gets in the way of the fun of the game. I'll give you a couple. One, the building colors, they attempt to have patterns differentiate them. But the different buildings, a couple of different buildings are very similar. For instance, the bakery, I believe, the bread building and the gold building are both way too similar to me. Let's add in the two green buildings are also way too similar. So the one that gives you leaves and the one that gives you a bonus tile, those are too similar. You want those to be easily distinguishable on a glance so that you can tell what you need on your board and what's available for you to draft. And this game makes it so hard because the colors are so muddled and so close to each other. It's an utter and complete mess on that front. How about this other fact, Sean? It's very important to have the backs of the tiles distinguished, the light green tiles and the dark green tiles. But guess what? They made the shades of those way too close to each other for no good reason. Absolutely no good reason for it. They could have put a little marker on there, like B for bonus or D for round D or something. They didn't have to have them blank with slight variations. But no, they had to make them different in the course of gameplay, so they're important. But also, it's a mess. Those two things alone are rough.
Yeah, there were several times after we had picked up a game. Like there was one game where I had none of the green buildings that would let me get the extra tiles that are the dark green back tiles, right? And as I was putting them away and I was flipping over my tiles to see which were light green, which were dark green, in one game I found 3 dark green tiles.
Yep.
Meaning they had been mixed in from the previous game with the light green tiles because they're very close to each other. Like, it's incredible. It's just incredible. So, have you heard that there's already plans for a second edition of this game?
I have not heard that. That is insane to me.
So, this was reported in a German website, Poppelkist, and then also in the Spielbox magazine. So, the future printing of the game is the color differences are going to be more readily apparent. The icons on the frame for gardens and ponds will be circular, like on the player board. Basically, they're all square, but then there are circles for certain things. It's kind of confusing.
Yep.
And then the frame configuration that allows for 2 pond arrows to point at each other will be changed. And that's maybe more of a corner case because you build these frames randomly. They're 4 pieces, and they each have, 2 requirements on them, and so it's possible that you can have 2 pawns that will align with each other just by random chance. But here's the big one, Alex. You ready for this?
Yep.
The next printing is going to get rid of the star movement.
What?
Yes. Have you not heard about this?
No, this is... Oh, my God.
No. This is big. And let me tell you why. So, the main mechanic of the game are these 7 areas, and it's a 7-pointed star, right? So you have 2 paths you can go. It is functionally identical to just having a circle, and you can either go left or right.
Yes.
It makes 0 difference mechanically. None whatsoever.
It looks cool, though.
And, but here's the thing. It's easier to play. I played both ways, and I will play the circular way all of the time because it's easier to plan. like there's no reward. Like it's like, why are you being rewarded for you being able to visualize how the star pattern works and what it's setting you up for on the next turn? If anything, that just creates unnecessary time trying to figure it out and plan your moves ahead. Whereas our brains, I think, work much easier on the circle pattern. Like there's no skill set that's like rewarding other than like some kind of weird spatial recognition or spatial reasoning. I don't know. Now here's the thing. You go over to BGG and there's like 20 pages of people fighting over the 7-pointed star or the circular movement and why one is better than the other. Even though everyone agrees that they're functionally identical.
They are functionally identical. Yeah. I mean, the idea with the star movement is you always have two choices, no matter what.
Yeah.
Because you're allowed to, if you go to an empty space, bounce off to the next one. So you'll always have a selection of two tiles. Yeah, the change makes perfect sense. I get it. The fact that they're making this many changes, though, just shows you how badly they screwed this thing up.
Yeah. No, it's it's not good. So, yeah, no, I agree with you completely. I think the game looks terrible. I mean, it looks... If this game came out in 1998, 2002, it would fit in with a lot of stuff, but come on. I realize it's an Alea Ravensburger game, and of the two of us, I'm the one that's willing to be a lot more forgiving of components.
You like GMT. If you like GMT enough, that's a sign in and of itself.
Yeah, and this it does not look good, and there are a bunch of problems with it, so yeah, no, it's a big knock against it, I think.
I don't know how this was signed off on. I don't get it. I fundamentally don't get it, because I will say, kind of behind the scenes, we do usability tests. Like we test these things to make sure they make sense when someone's playing it, and we just look at it for half a second. If someone had looked at this for a half a second, they would have been able to discern that this was going to be bad on 5 different levels. It's so frustrating because I actually do enjoy the underlying gameplay here way more than you do. But man, oh man, this production was rough. Really, really rough. Side note, funny note, did players at your table consistently refer to the fish as dolphins?
No, but Chewie did.
Okay.
Yeah, she was helping us play one game, and she kept referring to them as dolphins.
Yeah, we referred to them as dolphins too pretty consistently. So I don't know, for whatever that's worth, it was just kind of weird to think of hunting dolphins for their for their resources. Anyway, yeah, we beat this. We fed this fed horse.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay, Peter.
Yeah.
By the way, feeding a fed horse is worse than beating a dead horse.
No, it's absolutely worse, and
because you're overfeeding it.
Also, my favorite of those kind of alternate terms. So for background, Peter came up with a list of alternate terms for kind of common colloquialisms. So instead of "bring home the bacon," they want you to say from now on, "bring home the bagels."
Yeah.
I also like feed 2 birds with 1 scone, although kill 2 birds with 1 scone, I think, is the best possible version of that. Anyway, so components art, it's a huge negative, and it hurts the game. And I'm glad they're doing a second edition, but I'm also kind of frustrated that they're doing a second edition this quickly too. Oy. Awful. Gameplay innovation. So Sean, this just didn't hit on any front for you, huh?
No, not particularly. And I'll tell you the problem. I really enjoy this game on round 3. Round 3 is the most fun that I have in this game, because round 3 is where you've kind of already set stuff up. I'm not going to say you have an engine, because there's really no engine building, but you've been setting stuff up. And typically I found that round 3 is when you're scoring the most points on the objectives. Typically. Round 1, you're just kind of getting things going. Same with round 2. And then round 4, your choices are so limited on the objectives that are left that you're just kind of making do with what you've got. It was kind of just a rote play. And yeah, there's some choices that are better than others. And you're hoping, you're going out on a limb. Oh, I'm going to get this vineyard middle piece. But man, there's only one end cap for it left, and will I get there before someone else gets it? And I found myself looking at my opponent's boards just to kind of see what they were working on to inform my decisions. but man, it reminds me in certain ways of Castles of Burgundy, right? You're taking actions to get these tiles that you're then going to place on your board to get certain bonuses that are going to score you points, right? Now, obviously, the underlying mechanics are different, but I just feel like for a little bit more time, for a little bit more investment in terms of a rules teach, just play Castles of Burgundy. It's so good.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. This is going to be an easier teach than Castles of Burgundy.
Absolutely.
It's going to be also a quicker play than Castles of Burgundy.
Yeah.
Certainly the in-between round setup is far less fiddly in this game because you're just flipping over 28 new tiles. All of the discs stay where they are. Points are handled in hand. There's no tracks that you're bumping potentially. By the way, we didn't talk about this. Did you like how they handled victory points in this game?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's the other thing. No, I hate victory points. So there's no track. There's no point salad track like in every other freaking Feld game and every other freaking Euro. Instead, you have these stacks of 1 victory point cards, 3, 5s, 10s, and 25s. And that's how you keep track of your points. Did you see anything in the rules that said points were secret?
I don't recall it specifically.
No, I don't recall seeing them saying points are secret or public. I don't think it said either way. And maybe I just missed it. I did look for it because that's the only reason I could think of why you would go with these cards instead of, I don't know. I really don't know. But even then, I don't know. I was really disappointed with the victory point cards.
Yeah, it wasn't great or terrible, but I think I would have preferred a track a little bit more. There didn't seem to be much reason to have that out there. Sean, I will tell you some of the things I really enjoyed about this gameplay and why I found it more satisfying than maybe you did. The act of building out your board in this potentially restrictive way leads to some interesting choices. Do I extend this building with the chance that I might get shut out of ever completing it? Do I go for like a big villa points? Do I extend my pond in hopes that I can find the end cap to the pond? Do I go down the route of gathering bread to complete a goal card multiple times? Because spamming bread can be a very useful way of doing that. So there are some decision points that come into play with the building of this game, the building of this board. Have I built myself into a corner where I can't actually complete either of these two buildings because I stupidly built them in such a way that they're perpendicular to each other and there's no tile that's going to possibly fit that? There are enough of those situations that come up in this game. Oh, and let's add on, am I going to build in such a way that I can move up on the banderoll track to get myself the best possible access to goals? Am I going to focus on my building in that direction? Those things, I think, are all interesting decision points, in addition to the fact that you're drafting from potentially 8 different tiles and also looking ahead to see if I draft this one on this turn, will I have a chance at getting this other one I might need? For instance, in last rounds of games, trying to draft something that gets you 2 green tiles so you can get access to stuff at the very top of the board is a decision point I found very interesting pretty consistently. It's certainly not as deep as Castles. I 100% agree with that. But the depth of that building on the board, the sheer number of factors you have to consider, I didn't even mention the frame bonus points. Trying to make sure you build in such a way that the frame intersects with your building when it's complete. All very useful. Going for endgame scoring cards can be potentially really interesting too. And I like how the game handled that with the draw 2, add them to your hand, and then pick 1 to discard. There's actually a decent amount here for what is more of a light medium kind of game. And I found myself really digging it when I wasn't completely thrown off by how bad the production was.
Yeah. Okay.
This whole time you were just sitting there, you were just winding up, ready for a big response. And then we get that.
No, so everything you say is true, right? Like there's definitely some skill to this game. It's very low luck in terms of, I mean, you're not counting on dice like you are in certain other Feld games. Really, it's just a matter of what tiles come out early on, and I have to prioritize when I'm gonna take them, and if someone can get to them before me. So, yeah, there are a lot of considerations, like you mentioned, and there is tension. And no, I can't do everything I want to do, and it's just trying to prioritize those things. But it just wasn't particularly satisfying for me.
Okay.
And it like one of the things that bugged me, like you mentioned, like I built these tiles perpendicular, and so I cut myself off. The tiles aren't interesting for the most part. So if you have two like end caps of two different building types on the same tile, they're always going to be opposite each other. So for the most part, most of your stuff kind of needs to run parallel, with some exceptions.
Well, there's some buildings that turn, right? There's the 90-degree turns out there. Yeah.
There's the L's, right? But I'm just saying, for the most part, I found that I could build more efficiently if most of my stuff ran parallel. Again, with a couple of exceptions, just based on what's available to me and what spots are left. And but for the most part, I found that kind of uninteresting. Like, it would have been nice if there were some tiles that were on like there's a cap on the left and a cap on the right, to promote a little more interesting building.
I agree that could have the potential to be more interesting. Here's the trick with this thing, though. Because you're going for those different frame bonuses in different directions, the game encourages you not to just build all in one direction and forces you into some tricky situations there. Let's add on to that some of the goal cards require you to have completed certain types of buildings or collected a certain number of chimneys out on the board from villas in order to even activate them. So the game sets you up in such a way where you have to make some tough decisions about what you're going to complete and what you're not going to complete. You can't do everything. It's certainly not a game where it encourages you to do just one thing and hammer that one thing, right? It encourages you to have diversity for the most part. And it sets up some pretty tricky situations. Do I go to get ahead on the banderole track while missing out on something that could potentially make my goal worth more? Or do I try and max out whatever goal I get, worried that someone else might beat me to it? I don't know. There's a lot here that mixes together in a pretty satisfying way for me, Sean.
Sure. So, I mean, like I said, I agree with you that because of the frame scoring, you do need to have buildings built perpendicular to one another. But for the most part, I found that I could always, like, with relative ease, build fairly parallel to get both of the bottom frame scores, both of the top frame, and then I can just kind of plug into my dead spaces to get some of the others. And for the most part, I mean, it's pretty hard to get all of them. Oh, yeah, it's pretty hard, yeah. I've seen someone who got all but 2, I think. Yeah, I think I got all but 3 typically. Yeah. 3 of, yeah. So, yeah, it was fine. I'm trying to bring something out of this to help our listeners, but I was just so underwhelmed by this. It was just, like even La Isla, right? Like La Isla, at least you are crafting your abilities. You're doing things that let you break the rules in an interesting way. But at its core, it's still a fairly simple game. I would play La Isla over this any day. Heck, I would play Aquasphere or Luna over this game any day, and I hate those games. Whoa, shots fired. Yeah. I would play this over Castles of Burgundy, the card game, however. Okay, well, fair enough. I will say the one drawback, and I kind of teased this out at the beginning, is there is, you're correct in that there's not a ton of necessarily variability or replayability. The variability in the game comes from the frames or when certain tiles come out or the goal cards themselves, but really there's not a ton there. So this is not one that I think has quite the legs as some other Feld games do. But I don't feel as meh on it. I had actually kind of forgotten about La Isla and that experience. That was an interesting one. Yeah. Very light. But yeah, that was an interesting one. Anyway, this is a really solid Feld for me, Sean, and I'm actually surprised you're as down on it as you are. I'm not surprised you don't like it as much as I do, but I'm surprised you're as down on it as you are. Well, and the problem is there's just nothing. I'm not going to bring this game out. I'm not going to think to bring this game out. There is, if I'm thinking of playing a Feld game, there are so many others I'll play before this, even if I'm looking for something lighter. If I'm introducing someone to the world of Feld, I actually think this is a great starting point. I'll just teach them castles. Oh, okay. Well, it's a decent amount more, I think. It is. But it's worth that investment. Sometimes, Alex, it's just a little. You just gotta do what you gotta do. You know what I mean?
So at the gaming retreat, our warehouse manager was out there who has not played a ton of board games, and he played Notre Dame and this back to back.
Oh.
And he got his butt whooped in both of them really badly. And he may have to swear off Feld games forever.
Oh. Did he like one over the other?
He liked Notre Dame slightly more than he liked Carpe Diem. Though Carpe Diem, by the end of it, had grown on him at least a bit more. Let's talk theme. Hey, Sean, does this game have a theme?
Yeah, it does. You're a Roman patrician in 1 BC, and you're building your estate.
Let me be clear. Does it have a theme you can feel?
Well, when you complete a vineyard, you get grapes. So, way to go.
Yeah, okay. And when you complete a pond, you get the valued pond dolphin right out of there.
Yeah. No, it's as thematic as Castles of Burgundy.
Fair enough.
It's more thematic than Trajan.
Okay, that's true.
It's less thematic than Bora Bora. I don't know.
And Aquasphere.
These are Feld. Yeah, these are Feld games. Who cares?
It's true. Hey, let's get to the guild thoughts, because there are actually quite a few guild thoughts. Sean Jones says, Carpe Diem, I've only played once, so I don't have a firm opinion on it, but it's a Feld. The decisions are good. I found the scoring mechanism quite interesting, and it's dripping with theme. The first game I played with a Star Rondelle type action selection. I enjoyed building on my own board a la Castles of Burgundy and trying to complete buildings, but I'm not sure where this will land eventually. It was enjoyable, a preliminary 4.
Sylvain Lacroix says, let's start with the obvious. The game is ugly. I mean, it looks like a game that was done 30 years ago. I don't mind the Ravensburger Alea cover, but the choice of palette and the general visual design of the game is an absolute mess. This said, it's probably the only negative thing I had to say. I have played a few games already and find the design really interesting. In our group, it was dubbed Carcafeld due to the tile lane aspect of Carcassonne. Something I really liked about the game were the end round objectives. I found this to be pure genius the way it worked, having to place your marker to select 2 objective cards to score points, and the fact that every spot is only valid once. This is one great mechanism. In the end, I really like the game, a high 4 on the ducal scale. And I will say that, to me, that is probably the high point of the game are the objectives. That is interesting. That is, I would say that's a bit innovative, the way he handles it here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. BJ, a.k.a. Dr. Gumbo, says, well, the gameplay was, I guess, intriguing. That game was screaming for better art. I would love to see what Dutrait or Sobel or someone like that could do with a good Feld game. That's Vincent Dutrait or Beth Sobel. And I don't know what they're doing in terms of art for the second edition. Maybe nothing? I don't know.
Probably nothing. And then finally, Chad Jacobson. And Chad and I have a very similar taste in games. So Chad says, the variability and playtime are the strengths of this game. Even with all the variability, the gameplay is pretty light, and I could see it getting old quick in a La Isla sort of way. This being a Feld, I'd like to give it a 4, but if I'm honest, it's closer to a 3. And by the way, if we hadn't said it, we rate all our games here, the Dukes of Dice, on a 6-point scale. So yeah, Alex, where are you going to wind up on this one?
So, Sean, as you mentioned, we rate things on a 6-point scale, 1 being bad, bad, very bad, 6 being an all-time favorite that's a contender for the top 10. And I will say the gameplay of this, I think if the production was done properly, because it's on the lighter end, it's accessible, and yet still has enough depth and interesting decisions to be crunchy and fun, my enjoyment of this probably would trend more towards a 5. A great game will rarely turn down a play of it. That being said, the production is just so awful and gets in the way and angers me so much that it drops a full point easily to a 4. A good game worth playing, just not all the time, belongs in the duchy. And I will certainly have my copy around. It's one that if someone's new to Feld but has played enough games, I'll bring out and try and play with them. And otherwise, sure, I'll probably seek out other Felds before this when I'm really sitting down to crunch on a good Feld. But this is a worthy entry from a Mr. Feld. So I like this one. I just wish the production hadn't let it down so badly.
Now, before I give my final thoughts, Alex, did your copy actually arrive?
It did actually arrive.
Okay, but it's now Josh's.
Yeah, well, it's now Josh's copy. So to go behind the scenes of the duchy, behind the curtain, Sean had ordered a review copy of this. Not a review copy. It wasn't given as a review copy. He had ordered a copy of this from Fun Again Games. And it was due to get here on Friday. But I'm sort of living half at my apartment and half over at Abby's place these days. And so I wasn't back at my apartment to check. And I don't know. I didn't scoop up a copy before I left. Luckily enough, though, Josh's order from Miniature Market got here just in time. And so Josh brought it out to Gamers Ranch, which I got one of my plays in. I'd gotten another one in on Tuesday. But during our game, Sean, I spilled a little bit of margarita. A little bit of Josh-made margarita on one of the frame tiles. And Josh was upset until I told him, hey, I've got a fresh copy coming. You can have that. I'll just trade you. So I will say it was one of 4 drinks I spilled over the course of the weekend. I was very, very clumsy.
Man, margaritas are like the kryptonite of Duke Alex.
Yeah, except in this case, I actually played the game several times.
Yeah, you actually did your job and reviewed the game.
Right, yeah.
Oh, my God. Anyway, let's talk about my final thoughts. Okay, I'm pretty down on this game. So here's the question, Alex. Am I going to unleash the 2 on this game? This is between a 2 and a 3. A 4 is not even a consideration. A good game worth playing just all the time belongs to the Duchy. That is a 4 that is not in the mix at all. Like I mentioned way earlier, I'm only keeping this game because it's a Feld game. Only reason. So let's think about this. So a 2 game has some merit, but has significant issues. 3 is a game is okay, not exciting, will play in the right situation. So I think I have to figure this out. Is there a situation that I will play this game? That's the hard one. It has some merit. It does have some issues. It has some component issues, and it has.
Sounds like a 2.
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those situations where I'm like, it's a better game than a 2. You know,
you're gonna get coal in your stocking either way. This Feld-Mas season.
No, I'm gonna get visited by Krampfeld.
You've been a very naughty boy, Sean. It's time to get punished.
Man, you know, it's hard because there are at least, like Raquel, Trajan, Bora Bora, Castles of Burgundy. Those are all 6s for me. A ton of like Notre Dame's a 5, Rialto's a 5. Oh man, is this really a 2? When am I going to play this, Alex? You talk me into the 3.
No, based on your enjoyment of the game, I think it's a 2. Legitimately, I think it's a 2. I can't think of when you would play this. I think you'd play La Isla over this if you were trying to teach someone Feld. So I don't think it's coming out in that situation. Maybe if it was a better edition that looked better, you might be inclined to bring it out. But based on your enjoyment of it and how you played it, I think a 2 is probably where this review would lead me to think you're going. So I'm not going to talk you into it.
Hashtag unleash the 2. It's a 2.
Yeah.
Man. Oh, it feels dirty. Oh, I don't feel good, Alex. I don't feel good at all.
Well, it's your own fault.
I am the Scrooge of Feld-Mas.
Do we need to go on some sort of magical journey where you're reminded of your current and past and future wrongdoings?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, anyway. Oh, hey, is this your least favorite Feld game ever?
No. I think Castles of Burgundy, the card. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it is. No, I think I'd rather play Castles of Burgundy, the card game. Oh, man.
Rough. So rough.
Is this my least favorite Feld? Am I going to play this over Aquasphere? Or...
You'd play Aquasphere over this.
I'd play Aquasphere over this. Yeah, I would.
There's no doubt in my mind.
I would. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely bottom couple, at least.
Wow. Bummer. Well, anyway, that's the Duke's review of Carpe Diem. It's a fairly merry 4 with a little bit of grouchiness on the production from me, and a stunning coal-inducing 2 from Sean.
You are listening to the Dukes of Dice, proud members of the Dice Tower Network. For other great shows in the network, check out Dicetowernetwork.com. Back to Alex and Sean for this week's Dukes Double Take.
All right, next up in our Dukes Double Take, we're keeping the Feld theme going because, hey, it was Feld-Mas last year too, Sean. This was episode 166. I'm dreaming of a right Feld-Mas. We reviewed Castles of Burgundy, the dice game. Sean, at the time, you gave this one a 4. You liked its portability. It was a nice quick filler. You enjoyed this game way more than I did. I gave this one a 2. I said there was not enough interactivity. The game didn't work and wasn't fun because it took out the decisions. It took out this kind of decision of, I need to grab this before other people do, because you didn't draft the dice. If you had some sort of mechanism in there to draft the dice, I think there was a good chance this would have done a lot better. But you don't, and I didn't like it. And I got rid of my copy. It's now, I don't know if Josh still has it, but I gave it to him.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. No, I got rid of it pretty much immediately and unleashed the 2 on Feld last year and got coal in my stocking. Sean, have you played this game since?
No, I haven't, Alex. And really, there are just so many better roll and writes, especially with games like Ganshun Clever, with Welcome To that I just talked about. Yeah, I think I'm going to drop this to a 3. And
got you on board.
Game is okay, not exciting. We'll play in the right situation. And yeah, I will. But if I'm looking for a Feld, obviously there's a lot other Felds. And this is quick and light and much quicker than, say, Carpe Diem. But at the same time, if I'm looking for a roll and write, I've just got so many other options that I think are a lot more fun and a lot more fulfilling. So I got to drop it from a 4 to a 3.
I think I might drop it too, Sean.
What?
Yeah, I think I might drop it too. Because here's the thing. If you have Castles of Burgundy without that scarcity of resources, or that scarcity or that race or that push of something to get to those dice, and it's just multiplayer solitaire, you have literally designed the fun out of the game. And when you've made that kind of a decision, so counterproductive to the fun of the game, maybe this is my own disappointment in this, but I aggressively will not play this game again. It's not just like a disappointed. It's a 1, I think, for me. Poorly designed, but playable, not necessarily fun. Far better describes my thoughts on this game.
Wow. Is that our 3rd official one?
Maybe. I think there's been more than 3.
Well, you gave Praetor a 1.
Yep, Machikoro.
We both gave Machikoro a 1.
Yep.
I don't think there's been any other official ones.
Yeah, no, I actively hate what they did with this game. I'm that upset about it.
You know, I feel like this is the Feld-Mas, Alex, where you and I learned that Santa Feld is not real and that it's just our parent.
No, didn't you hear my poem? He's very real.
Well, that's what they want us to believe. But
very real and apparently very beefy. If you listen to my poem.
He's swole as all get out.
Hey, we had one guild thought on this from Sean Jones. A big Feld fan and a roll and write fan, I thoroughly enjoy Castles of Burgundy, the dice game. It's not a replacement for the full game, but gives a similar feel in less time. I've laminated 6 copies of all the different sheet types and love bringing it out as a thinky filler. A solid 5 for me. You enjoy it, Sean. Not for me.
Other Sean, not this Sean.
You both can enjoy it.
Well,
I guess.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's not fine. Anyway.
Gave it a 1. Wow. You know what? I'm going to drop Aquasphere to a 1 just to spite you.
Well, that would make it your least favorite and would contradict everything you just said. So.
I'm just joking. No, Aquasphere is a solid 3 for me.
Okay. Well, great. Hey, let's wrap this one up. Recapping our Duke's Double Take drops from a 4 to a 3 for Sean and a 2 to a 1 from me. And I don't feel bad about it at all. Hey, before we go, we have some honorable mentions to get to. The rest of the top 6 names for this week. First up, Baker Mitchell with one that I was kind of pushing for. Seize the Dice. Combines Carpe Diem, Seizing, and, of course, Castles of Burgundy, the dice game.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Very good. And then BJ from Board Game Gumbo suggested you should... Hold on. I'm going to let you do this one, Alex, because this is your thing.
Last Feld-Mas, I gave you my Rome. Also, if you're playing Whamageddon, that totally counts, and you lost.
That does not count for Whamageddon.
It does count. What if I sing the real one right now?
Yeah.
Would that count?
Well, we gave too much warning.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. The very next day, you gave it away. All right. That's good enough. You're all out. If you were listening and you were playing Whamageddon, you're all out. For those who don't know, Whamageddon is trying to not listen to that song for as long as you possibly can during the holiday season. I've never played.
Okay. Moving on, Alex. Philip Millman suggested Dead Theme Society, which is a reference to Dead Poets Society, which I saw it like when it first came out, and then I saw it again in college. And I'm just trying to remember, but apparently they say Carpe Diem a lot in it.
I have never seen the movie, so I don't know. I will say I played this, when I played Carpe Diem for the first time, I played it with Philip at BGG Con, and he did not like it either. He did not like it one bit, but we did play with two major rules wrong. We didn't have the -4 points for not completing a goal card, and we did something else that was bad. Anyway.
Oh, okay, I remember now. It's Robin Williams' first lesson. Okay. I remember now. All right, I'm going to rewatch this movie. It's a good movie. You should watch it, Alex.
Blaine Miley came with a title that thoroughly confused Sean until I was reading the intro. Point salad with ranch dressing. I was confused too.
It confused you too. Don't put this all on me.
I was confused too. But he is referring to Stefan Feld point salads and ranch being the Gamer's Ranch, or just Gamer's Ranch. Again, I don't know.
So we were looking at this, and you're like, this is the one that got the most thumbs, like everyone loved it.
Namefather was on board.
Right, and I'm just like, what? And you're like, well, because it's got dressing and it's a point salad. I'm like, yeah, but why wouldn't it be like Caesar dressing or something? And you couldn't explain it, I couldn't figure it out. And I was just like, what is happening here? And then as soon as you read the intro, I'm like, oh, the ranch.
Yeah, fair enough. I should have gotten that sooner too.
Yeah. And then finally, Sean Jones suggested at 2, Stefan. You as well, Stefan. You?
I think
really.
I think after this episode, he might be asking that at 2 Dukes.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, because the knives were out individually on different games.
Stefan Feld is just looking down like, I can't believe you guys did this to me. You're my bros.
Oh, I'm going to next Essen attempt to meet him, if only to make Raquel insanely jealous.
Okay, you do that.
That's my specific goal now.
And tell him you gave the Castles of Burgundy the dice game a 1.
I won't tell him that. I won't tell him that either. Hey, we're 9 episodes away from 200, Sean.
And again, we are 3 episodes away from episode 194.
That's going to be a very special episode too.
Sure is. All right. Well, Alex, once again, Merry Feld-Mas to you.
And to you as well.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's going to do it for episode 191. Seizings, greetings. Did I say that right? Seizings, greetings.
Yeah. No, you nailed it. That was good.
Perfect. Thanks again to Nick Hayes for that awesome episode title that is so hard to pronounce, but I made it. I managed. Until next time, this is Sean.
And Alex.
And Carpe Diem, everyone. Or don't. Just take a nap.
Thank you so much for listening to The Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy on December 20th, 2018. Our theme music provided by Carbohydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out DicetowerNetwork.com. And for all the latest in the Duchy, go to DukesOfDice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsors, Tasty Minstrel Games, Arcane Wonders, and Game Toppers, LLC. You can check out all of TMG's titles at PlayTMG.com. Arcane Wonders find games at ArcaneWonders.com. And learn more about Game Toppers at GameToppersLLC.com. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks and in a new year. Until then, game on!